Hi, welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we're talking about um,
Beep.
what is happening? I feel like there's so much going on. Like, should I just rattle off a few things?
Yeah, let's get
Yeah.
it started.
How about Princess Kate missing, but then reappeared? But wait, maybe that's an AI video, allegedly. We're just watching this. This is just, we're just goofing around here. This is just all our thoughts, opinions, whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is just for entertainment purposes. Okay, so there's Princess Kate. Where is Princess Kate? Well, allegedly, nobody knows, but there's an AI video possibly of her. When do the royals ever wear the same thing twice? When you know, you know. Anyway, P-Diddy, lawsuit, sex scandal, raid, like what? Okay. Eclipse season, April 8th eclipse. They're telling you that you should probably prepare for cell phones to go down, services to go down, have cash in your bank or have cash in your wallet just in case there's no internet, like have a communication plan, stay indoors. Like what? They're keeping kids home from school. Like these are just a few things off the top of my head, and I've probably missed a lot. But what the is going on?
Well, it's funny because I actually hadn't heard the P. Diddy thing. It's hilarious actually that we're having this conversation because as those who actually watch our show before today's video know that I don't watch the news. So I don't even get like cable television at my house. Like we just don't subscribe. So like
But
we
are you
are
not on the internet at all?
I mean, I am, but I don't seek it out. And my Google, like when I Google something, it just is Google with the search bar. There's no news, there's no nothing on it, right? Just a big whatever color screen they're having that day with the word Google and a search bar. So I, you know, I kind of live under a rock most of the time.
Totally. Totally.
And
Because
but
I
what's
don't have the
funny
news either.
Yeah, what's funny is I did hear about Princess Catherine. I had heard that she was having this abdominal surgery.
Yep.
And when they had said that she was going to be in the hospital for, I think it was like 10 days or 14 days or 3 weeks or something like this. It was kind of a long time to be in a hospital setting for someone who's young and healthy. Even having I mean, what type of abdominal surgery are we talking about? Because, when women have cesareans, which cuts through the muscle wall, you're like out in a few days. They're like, get out. You know what I mean? Never mind the fact that you just birthed a human through your abdominal wall. And like, there's just kind of a lot going on there with that. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of was like, well, what kind of abdominal? So I was my little, spidey senses were already kind of turned on with that. And I thought, hmm. And then when they said that she was going to need a bunch of time to recover, I thought, she's sick. There's something seriously wrong.
Hmm.
And it doesn't surprise me that she's completely like vanished, right? And then the weird photo came out and everybody was talking about the photo. Now, in full disclosure, I do follow the royal family on Instagram. So I find the royal family super fascinating, maybe because I've never been a royal in any of my lifetimes. And I just think that they're like these strange aliens that walk among us. So why not? you know? But I think that there is something amiss for sure with the entire royal family. Now, is it what are we calling it? The banana shot? So we
Yeah.
don't get banned off YouTube. Um,
Mhm.
is it that? I mean, cancer's on the rise in people who have received that experiment. So, is it a possibility?
Allegedly.
Sure. Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly. I feel like there is something more to this than simple dis-ease and disorder in the royal family.
100%. Did you see the video that came out where she's talking?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, one, she was very, very rigid. And like, okay, someone who has had abdominal surgery maybe would have a more rigid appearance because it could hurt to move, even though it's been weeks, you know. But it was like literally like no movement. Like she was extremely locked and rigid. And she doesn't seem to put on that sort of rigid appearance in her normal day to day. It
Right.
seems to me she would move her head. She seems very like relaxed in a public speaking format. And this felt very almost like forced or not real. Um,
AI, perhaps?
yeah, I mean, the minute that I saw the video, I was like, there's something seriously wrong with this video. Like either this isn't real or this is a body double of some
Hmm.
kind.
Hmm.
Because her light, her spark, her personality, it wasn't there. It was like just there was nothing.
Yes.
Someone who feels vibrations of things very, very like acutely. I'm very sensitive to that. Was instantly like, that isn't real. That's either not her or that is computer generated.
Hmm.
So I just find it fascinating that the palace did not get their arms around all of the crazy speculation, conspiracy, whatever that was coming out after her photo thing. Like that Mother's Day photo thing, if they would have never done that, it probably would have never become a thing because they said, hey, she's out, she's going to be gone for a while, you guys aren't going to see her. But like the minute that things started surfacing, that's when all of this kind of blew up in their face. And I think it's fascinating that they waited so long to try to remedy this like public view, which also seems very odd.
Feels like a bait and switch. Like, look over here, a distraction.
Right.
And I actually heard somebody say that. Like it was a person who had been in the tabloids, like an investigative reporter, was like, "What aren't you looking at?" Well, they released that King Charles has cancer, and everybody's been focused on Princess Kate.
Right.
Nobody has been talking about him. And has anybody seen him?
Right. Right. I don't know. It's funny that we're like talking about this. And today we just want to be like fully transparent with you guys that we're talking about some things that are just kind of like fun things that current events that are kind of going on, crazy whatnots that we're witnessing in this time. And uh, so if you guys have something that you want to discuss, like drop it in the chat. We're here. We're ready to
Hmm.
chat about it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I do think that it's really interesting how not only has Charles disappeared, but now we've got Catherine that's disappeared. Camilla is freaking wearing the pants for the family at the moment, but even she disappeared for a short time.
Hmm.
And William hasn't been all that visible. Now, I get that they've got small children and that he is wanting to support his wife and his kids, but these are not the kind of people that do it all themselves, right? I
Not
mean,
at
they have
all.
teams of support in various facets of their life, right?
Hmm.
She's got nurses, she's got doctors. I'm sure they've got nannies and whatnot. Like, it's just really odd to me that, I get that he would want to be there for his family, but like, it's also very odd that he would disappear the way that he has as well.
Yeah, it's very odd. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It feels more like the like some sort of show that we're watching. Like I don't know if you feel that about what's going on in all ways. Like it just feels more and more like this isn't real. This isn't real life. Like what is happening?
Yeah, it's very, very strange. Very strange. So tell me about the P. Diddy thing, because I know nothing about that.
There's a lawsuit. Candace Owens has been talking about it a lot. She actually went through the lawsuit, like read out the different things. There's just a highlight from what I heard. Allegedly, there's murder, there's sex trafficking, there is um, blackmail, like involving a lot
What?
of affluent people. Yes. And then just yesterday, I think it was, his home was raided.
By
Like,
who?
like a division of the police, like it was like SWAT.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
wait. So what what is the allegedly story? Do you know like what is
Yeah.
actually okay, well tell
Well,
me.
the
Like
alleged
immediately.
story is that there is, and we've talked about this a kind of sort of or hinted at it. I know you and I have talked about it privately, but I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but it involves some really dark stuff. Like there's a word with an A that I probably can't say, ends in a chrome. So there's that stuff that
Oh,
is
hmm.
going around Hollywood. It's the like elixir of life. I mean, all of these conspiracies started to surface really in 2020.
Hmm.
There was Pizzagate, allegedly, where they were trafficking children and, having these rituals with children, these sex rituals. There was also like other really dark rituals like spirit cooking and things like that. And it's been said before that a lot of the politicians are allegedly bought and paid for because they've been in a compromising situation and been recorded and now are, blackmailed into doing a bunch of other things. Well, now allegedly with P. Diddy, it's that he was doing that also, that he had cameras all around his house, that he was like getting people into situations where they were really like messed up on drugs and alcohol and whatever, and then were taking advantage of them, and all of this stuff was recorded, allegedly. So he's like Epstein. I've heard allegedly he's like Epstein for Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is quite the allegation.
it is really bad, really bad. I
Wow.
also find it interesting that, SWAT raided his house, but conveniently Diddy was on a plane to another country. Just happened to leave just before that.
Yeah. What an unusual coincidence.
Yeah, that's right. What an
Hmm.
unusual coincidence. And there's more and more, what I'm seeing anyway, is there's more and more stars from Hollywood that are coming out and speaking out about this, and people that I wouldn't have like ever expected to. I mean, we've seen videos of Jim Carrey, and a lot of people were like, he's crazy and whatever. But a lot of the things he's saying starting to make sense. There's other people. I think Mel Gibson, he got, you know, exited out of Hollywood for talking about some of these things.
Hmm.
There's a guy, I think he's a rapper. I think his name is Cat. You would recognize him if you saw him. I just don't know exactly who he is, but he's a rapper. He's been talking about this and about the crazy shit that's happening. It feels like they're putting a lot more front and center in our faces if you're actually listening to it
Hmm.
than ever before.
It's really interesting how many like what were A-list celebrities that have spoken out about Hollywood are no longer part of that group. Like they are immediately like exiled from the island of Hollywood
Hmm.
the minute that they say anything or they don't play along.
Hmm.
The thing with, Mel Gibson, he would not play along in their little goofy like shenanigans. Like he didn't want to be a part of it. And if you look at the celebrities that have sort of disappeared from the screen, these are the ones that were like, I'm not subscribing to this garbage anymore. This isn't the
Yeah.
Hollywood that, that I want to be a part of. And that's really sad. like really, really sad that, you have these amazing people who are incredibly talented that came here to, entertain and perform and story tell, and they can't because they're not subscribing to the agenda. And I think that that really is quite telling of the time that we're in because people are being asked to choose. Do you choose to drink the Kool-Aid or not?
Yeah. You choose the light or not.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all a
Wow.
choice.
So fascinating.
It it is fascinating. And I think that there's even more. I mean, like just talking about Hollywood, just talking about stars in general, there's a lot of them that have just disappeared. Like we haven't seen them since 2020,
Hmm.
2021, or nobody's talking about them anymore. Like where did they go? Where
Right.
are they? Why they just fell off the map,
Hmm.
unsubscribed, canceled, whatever it is. And it's very interesting to witness. Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's that.
Hmm.
There's also a huge disclosure of what's in our food. I know that you have been on this, rabbit trail for a long time, but the more I know, the more I'm like, what the heck? My husband sent me a video yesterday. And just looking at the tile of the video, I was like, ew, gross. Yeah, it was sanitary napkins. He's like, just watch the video. It was
Oh
sanitary
gosh.
napkins. And there's so much graphite in sanitary napkins that you can light an LED bulb.
Wow. That's awful. I mean, when that's
Yeah,
just that
right? Like, I mean, okay,
I don't
great if
think
you
that I
want.
expressed how awful that really is just now. I just kind of said, wow, that's awful. But like, that is really horrible. When you think about, okay, we did an episode a while back about fertility and our fertility journey and some of the things that we've gone through, just us personally. And I think that our own individual journeys has become more and more common than uncommon these days.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we both have been working on and have experienced and have changed in our lives is that exposure to like things that affect fertility, right? So, like reducing chemical exposure in the home, like in your cosmetics, in, literally everything that you consume, whether it be physical or television or social media or whatever, like all of that has an effect on the fertility, right? And then you hear things like this, something that is in a very delicate area that many women use because they're trying to avoid the toxic chemicals that are in insertable devices, right?
Yeah.
And here it is, they're being exposed to it anyway. Like, why isn't this being like treated as criminal activity? Like,
Right?
how are the companies getting away with doing this? Like,
I keep
where the
asking that
heck is our
question.
freaking FDA? Like,
Well, they're
they're all
allegedly
in
bought and
cahoots.
paid for. Yeah,
Right, right.
it's all a scam. The more
Yeah,
I know, the more I think that it's all a scam. There's
yep.
another one too, baby food. People have been
Oh,
taking
yeah.
like the oat cereal kind of thing, whatever that you give babies. It's like oatmeal kind of stuff, I think. And putting it into a little baggie and waving a magnet over top, and the shards of metal that are in this stuff. The juices, there's a specific juice brand. Oh man, they're really popular. It's not a square juice box, but it has kind of like an oval kind of shape. You would know it if you saw it. Like a Hawaiian punch is one of their flavors. Anyway, yeah, people
Like
are like,
Capri Sun?
yes,
Okay.
people are cutting the tops off those and looking inside their Capri Sun, and there
Oh my
is
gosh. I don't even want to know.
disgusting things inside of there. Like it literally, it is criminal. We're being poisoned, in my opinion. We're being deliberately poisoned for
Yeah.
these things. I've heard about vaccinations in vegetables. it's not just a theory. They're talking about it in the Congress of the United
Mhm.
States of America, of
Yeah.
how it could be potentially bad because you might overdose with one type of vaccine or another. So they're doing it
Mhm.
and they're not
Yeah.
disclosing it. Like that, like we already have such little knowledge about how our body operates. Like it wasn't until, the last 5 years, really, the last 3 years for sure, that I started to learn about my own cycle and what going on birth control did to me. And I was on it for a long time. What having an IUD did to me, what like I got the shot at one point in my life, what that did to my cycle, my hormones, my overall health, how things are impacted by one another. Like we think it's just one side of the coin, but it affects every single system. Like this is is it homeostatic system where it all is interlocking, and we are interlocking with nature and
Mhm.
watching all of this stuff happen. Like it's also, like it's climate change, right? I think I'm going to say it here. Don't
Here it
roast me.
comes, everybody. Here
I
it comes.
believe that we can do better for the environment and then we treat it like shit. That I really do believe that. It's why I live on a 110-acre farm. It's why we grow our own vegetables. It's why we take care of the soil. We are stewards of the land. I've always been a farmer. Like I grew up in a farming town on a farm with animals. I treat my horses better than got treated when I used to work with horses on a daily basis. Like I believe all of these things have souls and all of these things are important, including plants, and that we should do better as a collective for our environment. And I think it's bullshit, this climate change agenda that is happening right now. You can't tell me that strip mining for some of these substances to make batteries that last less amount of time, that cost so much more to not only produce but to maintain, that recycling the car in a fraction of the time instead of building stuff that's good. Like it drives me crazy that the shit that we produce today is so inferior in comparison to 30, 40, 50 years ago. Like vehicles used to last. There used to be the, million-mile Dodge that was out there. That is not possible today because companies don't want to do that. They don't make as much money. I get that, but why aren't we looking at things like that? And it drives me crazy. Canada, who puts out like I don't know what, 1.5, 1.6 of the carbon emissions of the entire world. Just wait. Carbon bad. Carbon dioxide makes plants, you guys. Like that is the food for the plants. They can't live without it. We strip the entire ozone, the planet, whatever, of all of the carbon dioxide. We've got no plants, and then that means we're dead. It is a homeostatic relationship. We
Mhm.
need this stuff. Can we do better? Yes. But the things that we're doing, as you can see, as how I rate I'm getting right now, it pisses me off. We are being charged a carbon tax that in a few days is going up another like 23% when the country here has more trees, more green space than most places on Earth, and the amount of carbon capture that happens from said trees, it puts us in a negative position in terms of what we put out versus what we're capturing back. But that doesn't matter. We're going to tax the citizens. There's like, it's just stupid because there's no way that I can turn my heat off when it's minus 50 in winter degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's freaking cold. You can't live without heat. You can't live without electricity. And yes, we can do better, but things have been sequestered, have been taken over. Like there's patents for free energy. There's patents for cars that drive on water. Where did they go? Somebody bought them and pew pewed the person that made them. It's happened over and over again. And it's time that things like this stop. We need to do better. But the city of Toronto, which is in the province of Ontario, is looking at doing, this is where I was going with this, is looking at charging people for rainfall. for rainfall, a climate change tax for rainfall. But in many of the provinces and in many of the states in North America, you can't capture rainwater without their permission, they being the government. So you can't capture rainwater so that you could utilize said rainwater to assist with flushing toilets or showering or drinking or watering your plants or doing all of these things and being a part of the cycle of life. No, you can't do that. But we're going to charge you now a tax for the amount of rainfall that falls in that city. Like, have we lost our minds? Seriously. Sorry, I just, went
I
off
think
the
it's a
deep.
wonderful, I think it's a wonderful rant. I mean, and I think that it really showcases the crazy world that we're living in, right? I mean, like for real. Like it's ridiculous that they're charging you for rainfall. Like how exactly are they going to actually calculate that tax? I mean, that's just insane. It's completely insane to me. I couldn't imagine not being able to capture the rainfall. Like I capture rain, I use it to water my plants, both out on my property as well as inside my house. So it's better for them. The water here where I live outside of Houston, and our water is probably some of the worst water in the country. It's so awful. In fact, we have like a 9-stage filtration system on our house and the water is still bad quality. We are having to get a second water filtration system into our kitchen so that we can actually clean, like strip it completely bare of everything because the 9 stages that we have our water running through doesn't capture things like chlorine, not chlorine, excuse me. It does capture chlorine, but like fluoride and arsenic, those little buggers get right through. So I'm like, we can't drink that. It's garbage. It's basically now filtered out everything except for some of the most toxic chemicals that are actually in it, right? So
Mhm.
we're having to get reverse osmosis and we have to get it remineralized because after reverse osmosis, it's dead, remineralized, restructured so that it's actually something that our body can use. And all I can think is all of these people that live in my neighborhood, that live in this state, that are drinking this water, that can't afford to buy bottled water or can't afford anything else or are ignorant to the fact that the water is such garbage. What is happening to their bodies? And
Absolutely.
like that should be a crime. One of the things that I saw through a show that I watch on the internet. We've actually broadcast part of it on our show at one point. I think we did. I think we showed part of that show, but it's called The High Wire. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Hopefully this doesn't get us banned because last time I used that
Did.
word, we got banned. But anyway, they were talking about that going through Congress right now is a bill that would allow them to aerosolize vaccines. And so, what does this mean? This means that they will just put it into the air and you will be vaccinated by breathing the air.
Whether you
That
want
is
to or
a
not.
massive violation of your rights. This isn't about vaccinated, unvaccinated anymore. Like, back during COVID days, it was about vaccinated and unvaccinated, or so we all thought. I mean, those of us that were like, could see what was going on knew that that's not what this was about anyway. But those people who were, you know, getting the propaganda machine driven into their living room every day. They were like, if get vaccinated to protect my neighbor, right? That was the propaganda that was put out, and everybody was doing the right thing for the guy next to them. But that's not what this is about. This is about the agenda, right? The let's take away their rights in one area and then we can just keep taking the rights away because they've already relinquished this. If you do not have the rights over your own body, what do you have? You have nothing. They own you. They literally own your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this is coming down to. This is a body autonomy rights problem, right?
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating that when people are talking about it, they're talking about it in the air of, oh, wow, that's just so wonderful. It'd be just so easy. We don't even have to go to Walgreens anymore. We don't have to go to our doctor to get the vaccine. They can just put it into the air. What a great distribution system. Like, what? One size does not fit all.
No. What happened to like actually doing the doctor thing where you analyze and treat a patient based on what they need? I, it, it blows my mind. And I mean, the water situation isn't just Texas. It's everywhere. The amount of estrogen that's in our water and the impact that's having on young males and the amount of drugs that's in our water and whatever, all of these other things that are in our water. Like it's scary when you think about everything that's going on. And the point is not to scare you in this conversation. The point is
No.
not to make you look at all the things that maybe you haven't been seeing. Well, maybe it is to bring some of those things to light. But I think for me, I feel that we need to start having real conversations about this. And I feel that we need to start finding solutions. And a lot of times people are like, well, that's just the way that it is. There's nothing that I can do about it. Wrong.
Mhm.
Wrong. I don't believe that. I don't believe there is ever a situation that I've ever encountered in my entire life that wasn't figure outable. There's
Mhm.
always a way. It's in the will of the people. So, for example, for me and my family, we are growing more vegetables so that we can put more of our food in the freezer because we know exactly what's in our soil. And now this year, something that I'm really excited about, we want to do a smaller community garden. And rather than, how they have community gardens, some places they'll be successful and sometimes they won't. People get excited about a garden and then they forget about it. This one will be like many hands make light work. Everybody comes together to be a part of this, and whoever wants to be a part of this will reap in the harvest. But allowing people to utilize what we have to give, which is the soil and the seeds and the knowledge and stuff like that, to be a part of this. And eventually, I hope that that grows into a huge thing for our community where our community comes here to be a part of the community garden to feed the people who necessarily maybe can't necessarily afford it. I mean, because that's crazy. Like inflation is insane.
Mhm.
Just absolutely insane these days. But helping out people like that, knowing, letting people know that they're not alone and that there is options. That's just one thing. We're looking at building a house. And so inside of the conversation is what can we do to live a more sustainable life? Where can we do the water thing, collect water in the summer? Because obviously in the winter it's frozen. But in the summertime, can we have a system that UV treats all of our water or reverse osmosis so we can use it not only in our showers and our toilets, but also for drinking and for our animals? Do we get a well? Like, what can we do in that regard? Can we get a cow? Can we make our own cheese? Like, these are all conversations that my family is having right now to do better for not only ourselves, but those that we surround ourselves with. And I imagine the ripple effect of that and the people that that will impact, you know, within my generation, but the generations to come, just teaching people how to take care of themselves and take care of their neighbor because we're not in this alone. And although a lot of this stuff is really scary or can be really scary, like it's like that game Red Rover, Red Rover. We call, whatever over. That's the image that my guides were just giving me. We got to lock arms together as a community, as a collective, as a society. We need to lock arms and say, bring it. because we're connected more now than ever before, and you can't get through our line.
Yeah, I mean, that's the call to get involved is so massive right now. Like, get involved with your local politics, get involved in your community, get involved with just your neighbors. Hey, neighbor, we're going to start a garden. Do you want to start a garden too? I talked maybe a year or two ago when I first moved in here. I'd put something out on our community app that was like, hey, I'm thinking of, starting a garden. Where are all the gardeners at? Do you guys want to trade? Like, should we put together like a sign up sheet of what each of us is going to grow? And then we can just trade off the, whatever it is that we grow. And, I actually got quite a good response out of it. We haven't started our garden yet, hopefully this year, keeping our fingers crossed with that. But like get involved with the people around you. Don't just sit back and be like, oh, well, that sucks. When I talk about how I don't watch the news and I kind of live under a rock, it doesn't mean that I'm unaware completely of things that are going on in the
Mhm.
way of like how things change vibrationally in our climate, in our environment. There's so much like falsities,
Yeah.
is that even a word? Like there's just so much incorrect, inaccurate, and like deceptive information that's being pumped out at such an alarming rate that really it just comes back to like, is there nothing that you can do? Like, truly, is there nothing that you can do? You can stop watching the news that's been lying to you for the last however many years, decades of your life,
Yeah. Since it was
because
invented.
this isn't a new thing, right? It's not like the news suddenly started lying in 2020. The news
Mm-mm.
has been lying for decades,
The
like since
Pentagon.
day one.
Yeah, the Pentagon has a film budget.
Right, right. So, I mean, the thing is it's like vote with your wallet. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, if you can't do anything else, stop subscribing to the companies that are pushing the agenda that is false. Stop buying the products that support the things that you disagree with. If you don't believe in, the way that military members should be treated poorly, maybe don't shop at the store that treats them like shit. Okay? Like make some choices with your brain and less with your absentness.
Yeah.
Get involved. I
Get
want to go
involved.
back to that. Yeah, I want to go back to that birth control thing you were talking about. When you think about the fact that like so many women like worldwide take some method of birth control, right? So they're like the pill, the shots, the implants, the IUDs, whatever, right? And you think about like how they're all walking around medicated in this way, and nobody talks about the effects of those treatments on men. But what do
Mm.
you get in a society full of women that are infertile? Because when you are on birth control, you're infertile, right? Like you're not fertile, right?
Yeah.
You have basically chemically castrated yourself so that you do not produce an egg, you don't get pregnant, whatever, right? So if you're walking around in a society of infertile women, what do you think is going to happen to the men? Because those hormonal, like pheromones change, the way that the interactions between men and women change, like
Yeah.
everything changes. And, you're starting to look at a society that's radically changing from, a society that, had a mostly male female coupling, right?
Hmm.
There were definitely same-sex couplings. Like we're not gonna deny that or ignore that. And I think love is love and everybody should be able to have that.
Yeah.
But when you look at just reproduction alone, you had, male-female relationships,
Yep.
partnerships. And it was with the birth control boom that you started seeing more and more same-sex relationships. And I can't help but wonder if this is an effect of birth control on men.
I
Even
never
though they're
thought
not
about
the
it.
ones taking it, they're not the ones
No.
taking it. Yeah.
But I mean, that jogs in my mind. This is super controversial. So I'm just saying this out loud because we just talk about everything. So I'm the most
Open
curious
book.
person you will ever meet. So I'm always curious about how things affect other things. So there is a study that talked about the impact of estrogen on men and other studies that have talked about how much estrogen from the birth control pills are in our water right now. And I think that's causing a lot of infertility problems with women is too high of estrogen. They're not being able to get
Mhm.
rid of it out of their system properly because we're not eating the right foods and we're taking in all this stuff. But I've never really thought about it in terms of what you just said about the overall impact on men. But there is a study on frogs of like high levels or high doses of estrogen and what eventually starts happening. And they start reverting to male frogs, start reverting to female frogs. And it causes all sorts of issues internally, externally. Like eventually they get to a point where they can reproduce a male frog.
Wow. The thing is it's like when you look at, these effects of, whether they're psychological or like conscious effects or not, when you look at, men who are in a sea of infertility, because women are medicating for that to become that, right?
Mhm.
When you look at this, it kind of makes you wonder, like, does their testosterone become affected? I was
Probably.
reading a study about the testosterone levels of men that are like millennials, right? My husband's a millennial. And so, and we've been on the fertility journey for a while. And so testosterone studies is something that I get into. And the thing is that they were showing that there's been something like a 98% increase in lowered testosterone in millennial men. And, but they can't correlate where or causate where that's actually coming from. There's speculation of it could be stress, it could be, student loan debt. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things that are out there
Yeah.
about what is causing this problem, but I can't help but think that, you know, my generation was the birth control generation.
Yeah.
It was the X gen that came into birth control. And so, a lot of early X gens had millennials. And it doesn't surprise me that the millennial generation men are now have a lower testosterone than the generation before them.
I never thought about that.
I mean, you look at like birth counts, in couplings from the boomer generation,
Hmm.
and what is it, the greatest generation or is whichever one it was before the boomer generation. But, they all had like litters of children. We're not saying like two kids. We're like saying like six,
10.
eight,
Yeah.
10. Exactly.
Yeah, that
Right.
was
So
the
they,
norm to have a lot of people in your family.
right. So like the boomer generation's called the boomer generation because it was a big baby boom, with the war and, and all of that. But also the fertility was very different then. My dad and I get into conversations sometimes about food. Usually, it's usually about food and about how different the food is now than it was when he was a kid. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm a broken record. I'm like, Dad, the food is not the same today that it was when you were a kid. I mean, I know that you got to eat meat and potatoes, but meat and potatoes today are GMO. They're not, they're like one molecule away from being plastic. And the meat is so pumped full of hormones and crap and garbage that like there's literally cysts inside of the tissue. Why do you think I am such a radical crazy person about where I source my meat from?
I got a good video you can send to your dad. It's disturbing.
Oh
I
my
sent it to
God.
Nate the other day. It was just like watching what happens to our food. There was like a bunch of, I don't know if it was potatoes or it was something, but like it was like they were like this gross, like rotting color almost. And then they just sprayed them. I don't know if it was potatoes, whatever it was they sprayed them and then they looked all sparkly and nice. And it was like, what? And then it kept going on and on with different things like the meat and like putting stuff into it. And like the more that I start to see, it's like you're right. I say that to my dad, and my dad finally agrees with me too, about what grandma ate back in her day, the quality of the food, the wheat that she was eating back in the 30s or 40s or whatever is not the wheat that we have today. It's not the same bread, it's not the same wheat, it's not any of those things.
Mhm.
And it's very, very different. It's extraordinarily different what's happening. Kat's got a really great question though, and I think we should tap into this. She said, why do you think they want to stop people from having kids? And she also said, I saw that video with beans and peas and nuts and pumping meat up to look fuller. It was gross. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Mhm.
Um, so
And don't even get me started on like the cricket food, like
oh
the bugs in the food. Like if you actually study like our stomachs and the ability to digest bugs, we are not built to digest that type of protein or whatever we're going to call it. Humans cannot digest crickets. So where that came from, like what in the world, like it's
or
just
fake meat. Like,
madness.
yeah, like 3D printing steaks.
Right.
No, no, no. Why are you messing so much with Mother Nature? Like, I
Yeah.
don't get it. But let's
Do we
talk
dare answer
about Kat's
Kat's
question.
question?
Well, I don't know. I want to know your opinion. Heather, why do you think they want us to stop having kids?
I think they want us to stop having kids because I think it's a power play. I think it's a population control and I think it's a control mechanism. So this is probably going to like grate some of our viewers, but I feel like it is a move to weed out the lower class. So I think that we have a lot of elite, at least in our country, that think their shit doesn't stink. And they just assume be only surrounded by the perfection of humanity,
Didn't
right?
somebody
Because
else say that once in history?
yes, yes, I
Starts
think
with
there's been a
H,
few. There's been a
ends with a Hitler.
few. Yeah, and so then Hitler. There has been a few groups and people that have definitely had that sort of mentality, and I think that that mentality is still very alive today. I think it may look a little bit different, but it's not too far off. It may be that, oh, if you can be black and be part of our club as long as you make this much money, right? As long as you believe in these principles, as long as you subscribe and continue to push our agenda, right? Then you can be part of the club. So I do think that, maybe we have surpassed in some ways the race card. If you have enough money, your race doesn't matter, maybe, perhaps, or power or something. But I think that if they just start starving people, only the people who can afford it, only the elite are going to prevail, right? Like, let's just call it what it is. There's been rapid, massive inflation, massive inflation. People are literally starting to starve, right? Because they
In
can't
first
afford
world countries.
in first world countries, right? You have people who cannot afford to go to work because gasoline is too expensive. They can't afford a car. They can't even afford to purchase the uniform for the job that they're going to go do. Like, how sad is this? We have an entire generation of kids that have come out of college with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt because they were promised that if they went to college, they would be able to get a better job, and they're not able to. And that
Yeah.
is a huge problem, a huge problem. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to get jobs at Starbucks and In-N-Out and wherever they can get a job at. They're working two, three, four jobs because none of those people want to employ them full time because they don't want to pay for the health insurance and all the benefits that go with having a full-time employee because, inflation's affecting them too, right? So what's going to happen? The entire symbol system starts to break down unless you're rich enough to buy the shit that doesn't make you sick. And if you do get sick on the shit that you can't afford, it's okay. We've got a system for you for that. And we will just continue to treat your illness until you finally die. And then we don't have to support you anymore. And I know that sounds really fucking terrible. And I'm sorry to be the one saying that, but that's just how I see it. And
Yeah.
it's effed, dude. You know, like, where's the humanity? Where's the compassion? Where's the love for one another? Like, why is this like this? And it's like, I look at what's happening right now and I'm like, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like,
What's happening here? It's a movie. Totally
seriously.
feels like a movie. Yeah.
And the thing too, just to tie this up with a little bow for Kat. Kat, what I'm saying here is that if they have less people to control, it's a lot easier to control the people. That's all
Yeah.
I'm going to say.
That's funny
Rant
because that's
over.
exactly what she said. Less population, more control. Agreed. I think it all comes down to control. And to take a different like spin on it, we've talked about it on our show. There is an attack on families. And I think that there's strength in coming together as a family. And like you think about how it used to be where there was large families and there was this togetherness, this cohesive unit. It's a lot harder to control these together pockets of people that are, so tight knit. But if we stop having kids, eventually it's just the husband and wife, and then there is no kids, and that's easier to separate. And then, our society says, like, oh, monogamy is not cool anymore. And, we should, as women, just devalue our body or only value what our body has to bring to the table and, be on OnlyFans and whatever. Like, it's your choice if you want to be on OnlyFans. And I still think that there's a lot more to value than just your boobs. And we're just devaluing our gender by doing these things. But I think that it's a cultural thing, it's a societal thing that we've created. So I think all of these things are stepping stones to sever the family, to really take people away from one another, to split people apart so they feel like they're all alone. And I mean, I can't cite exactly any studies, but I've read lots of them about the massive increase in anxiety and depression within our society today. We're not getting happier. Like, as a society, as humanity, we're supposed to evolve and get better, and this is what we've come to, is people are so incredibly unhappy. And so I think it's all control. And I think really that's the cue. And going right back to something that we've already said today, it's like, it's time to connect. It's time to go within and start asking those questions of like, what does make me happy, instead of following the the masses asleep or whatever, blind to whatever it is they're feeling, and just chasing something that they don't even know, they just perceive because somebody told them this will make you happy. um we really got to stop doing that and go within again and find our happiness within and understand ourselves and understand the ripple effect that we as individuals have on the greater good of everybody and everything that is in this world, and then connect with more people and start getting involved, like Heather said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this has just come down to what you were talking about, which is objectification, right?
Mhm.
It's taking the soul, the light, the spark out of whatever the thing is, right? Objectifying men, objectifying women, objectifying the family unit. Like it's just a thing. Nobody thinks about the fact that it's actually, there's actually emotions involved. There's relationships involved. Love is at stake when objectification comes into the equation because you can't objectify something and love it. It's an impossibility. So, anyway, nice chat.
Woo! We went all over the place today. If we have any final questions, make sure you drop them in the chat. But I think this is a really great time to like check in and connect with our guides and see if there's anything that they have to say. I know, something that we've been really practicing ourselves intentionally, individually, is just connecting with our intuition more and allowing that to guide us. And I think we've always done that with our this channel and with our channel, like our ability to channel. So, um, yeah, do your guides have anything to say as a final wrap up for today?
Well, the wonderful thing about the way that I channel is that they're always talking. So I've already dropped some knowledge bombs from them. The big thing that they're saying is that to remember who you are and how you relate to one another, that the whole human experiment is about coexisting and about connection and about compassion. And they want to remind you of this.
Mhm.
So when you are feeling as though you're living in this strange movie script, we'll call it, to remember who you are and remember why you're here. Because ultimately, in the end, when you leave this place, all you're going to take is the memories and make sure those memories count.
Beautiful. I think that's a mic drop moment. I think we're done for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.
Cool. I think that's, did I hit the stop record button?
I
I
think we're
don't know.
still on
Are we
YouTube.
still live? Oh,
Yeah.
haha. Bye.